Well, have you ever ordered an Uber, a ride, and then canceled that ride? Have you ever ordered something from Uber Eats and then been forced to cancel for one reason or another, and then you were charged for it? Well, there may be some good news on the horizon. The Quebec Superior Court has authorized a class action lawsuit against Uber Eats, for that cancellation fee practice. Let's talk a little bit more about this class action lawsuit with Joey Zukran, and he's with LPC Avocats and behind this case. Joey, welcome back to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So let's talk about this one. How did this come your way? I know all of these class action lawsuits, this involves real people with a real gripe. Tell us more.
Yeah, so this one is actually pretty popular, as we've been flooded in the last few days since the notices went out, and something that I guess has happened to every single person who's either ordered an Uber ride or at some point made an Uber Eats order. So let's start with the Uber rides. When you order a ride and you ask for it to pick you up at a certain place, and let's say you have to cancel it a few minutes later, so the ride never actually comes to you and you never get into the vehicle. Uber has a policy, or actually a practice, I would say, whereby they charge you $6.50 or so. They increase it sometimes, so I'm not sure what they're at now. So they charge you a fixed amount of about $6 to $7 to cancel the ride, when in reality they haven't rendered you any services and you haven't used their service. And the problem with that is, under Quebec's Consumers Protection Act, the law says that a merchant cannot charge a fee unless it's expressly indicated in the contract. And this happened to a consumer, so the lead plaintiff, in Montreal a couple of times. And we looked into the contract, and nowhere in the contract does Uber ever state that they're going to charge this amount to cancel a ride. That's the first issue. And the second issue is, even if it had been stated, so it wasn't stated, but even if it was provided for in the contract, it's unfair and it's abusive because they actually don't render the service. So back in our day, and I'm going back to my, calling Taxi Diamond,
Yep.
And now we've given them a plug, but calling Taxi Diamond back then, and you pick up the phone and call the number, and the taxi, if the taxi didn't come, you didn't pay. And if you didn't take the ride, you didn't pay. Now, Uber, on the other hand, is taking advantage of the fact that you give them your credit card information to use their services. So they have your credit card, you decide to cancel, or sometimes the driver cancels, and boom, they charge you that $6.50. And since it's not provided in the contract, there's really no limit. They could charge you whatever they feel, right? So
let me just ask you, because, to me, there's a matter of fairness here, right? So, if I placed an order for an Uber ride, and then before they even get me a driver, I'm waiting for 2 minutes, they still haven't found a driver for me. If I cancel in that time, I think that's fair. I shouldn't get charged for any of that. But let's say it's they assign a driver to me. The driver starts driving to my location, and halfway before, he gets to my location, I cancel. Well, he's spent some time trying to get to me. There's a cost there associated with time. I would think that is fair to charge in those scenarios. Now, I don't know exactly what Uber is pulling here. I've canceled before, but again, in situations where I haven't even had a driver assigned to me. So are you saying that doesn't even matter because according to Quebec law, they just can't charge it no matter what?
So first point to the example you just gave is if it was indicated in the contract. So if the contract did provide for the situation you described, for example, and there is a grace period. There is a 2-minute grace period where they don't charge anything. And if it were to say after the 2-minute grace period, we charge X, then our legal arguments would be different. Now, using your example where after 5 minutes you decide to cancel and the driver has already started arriving or coming your way, look, our argument is you don't get paid for getting to the job. You get paid for doing the job. So, it's part of, the reality of being a taxi driver or an Uber driver. Sometimes, if you don't pick up, they don't, by the way, they don't charge you, right? They don't charge you for the time to come to you.
Yeah.
Right? They only charge, the meter only starts running once you're picked up. So that would be our position. But the main issue is that it's really not provided for in the contract. And and we're going by the.
So when you say provided for in the contract, to satisfy that, like I open up the Uber app and it says, okay, UberX $15. What you would want to see on that page is UberX $15, $5 cancellation fee listed underneath. That would satisfy that contract requirement. You want to see it there?
Yeah, no, because what you're describing now is the use of the app. It's not the contract, right? The contract is what you agree to in advance. Because if they start, by the way, what you're describing is already better. It's an improvement, so it's a pretty good reflex you had. But the problem is the way they do it is it only pops up once you cancel. It takes you completely by surprise, and you have no choice, especially on the first time. The other example that is covered by this class action, and I'm sure it's happened to you and many others who are listening, is if you've made an Uber Eats order and then the food doesn't come. So many times it's happened where, we'll be at the office and you want to order your food to the office, and then all of a sudden maybe your wife or husband calls and says, I just got two large pizzas at the house. And you realize, oh no, I sent it to the wrong address, right? Because it was so sometimes people cancel before the food even goes out, sometimes within seconds, but they charge you significant amounts, sometimes the whole amount of the order, when again the restaurant hasn't even started making the food, and the court also authorized, and then you have to call the restaurant and fight with them. So, or not fight, but
yeah, but it is a hassle, and again, it comes down to that scenario. Like you realize right away you entered the wrong address. There should be a way to rectify that without getting dinged a cancellation fee.
Exactly. So that was one of the other main problems that we're hearing from a lot of people, and it's for us it's unacceptable that the users charged $160, for example, for ordering a meal that they canceled after 2 minutes, and the court agreed at this stage at least.
Okay, so if I've used these apps, I'm automatically included. I'll get alerted. Do I need to do anything here if I'm an Uber Eats user?
So so anyone who is part of the class is automatically included. There's no step to take, and they would have received an email sometime last week. So either look in your main folder or your junk folder. If you receive the email, you're automatically part of the class, and you don't have to join.
And that would be people who got this email are people that have been dinged for a cancellation fee before. Not all users per se, but users who've been dinged with a fee.
Anyone who's been dinged with a fee since September 6, 2019 until today.
Oh, that goes back a ways back. You think you can get to a settlement here?
I mean, to settlement, you'd have to ask them, right? Yeah. We're advancing the case. I think the amounts are astronomical. We haven't done discovery yet, but just based on the number of people writing and calling us, we're probably talking tens of millions of dollars. And candidly, I think we have a headshot on this case on one of the main claims. So, is it a case that you settle? Is it a case that you go to trial? That's to be determined. If Uber wants to come and give a fair compensation to their clients, we'll of course entertain it, but it would have to be something significant.
Joey, thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Take care.
Joey Zukran, class action attorney with LPC Avocats.
Experience Bruno Mars live in Toronto.
Guess who's back again?
iHeartRadio wants to send you and a friend with flights from tripcentral.ca. 2 nights at Sheraton Centre Toronto. Tickets to Bruno Mars and $1,000 cash.
Don't believe me, just watch.
Download the free iHeartRadio app. Listen to iHeart New Music for 10 minutes.
I'm coming to get you.
Win your way to Bruno Mars.
Will you be there? Oh, I just might.
Every day you listen is another chance to win.